I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. And I didn't open the envelope. It was taped under my dashboard, hidden so well that if you weren't looking for it, you'd never know it was there. But I was looking. I already knew who put it there. My daughter. Inside that envelope was enough cash to ruin more than one life. And if the police had found it in my SUV, my name would have been the one on the report. So instead of panicking, I did something that might sound insane. I took the envelope, walked across my driveway, and put it inside her car. 27 minutes later, I heard sirens. But that wasn't the moment everything went wrong. That moment happened weeks earlier, when I realized my own child was using me as cover for something far darker than I was ready to admit. This is the story of the day I stopped protecting my daughter and started protecting her from herself. I didn't panic when I found the envelope. It was taped underneath the dashboard of my SUV, tucked so neatly you'd only notice it if you already knew where to look. I peeled it off slowly, my hands steady, feeling the unmistakable thickness of cash inside. A lot of it. I already knew who put it there. My daughter. I sat in my driveway in Cedar Falls, Iowa, the early December air biting through my coat, frost clinging to the windshield. I didn't open the envelope. I didn't count the money. I didn't ask questions. Instead, I made a decision that would change the rest of our lives. I took the envelope, walked across the driveway to my daughter's sedan, opened the passenger door, and placed it carefully inside her glove compartment. Then I locked the car, went inside, poured myself a cup of coffee, and waited. 27 minutes later, I heard sirens. But let me rewind. My name is Elaine Parker. I'm 62 years old. I spent nearly 4 decades working as a logistics supervisor for a regional distribution company before retiring last spring. My husband, Mark, passed away 5 years ago after a sudden stroke. It was just me after that. Me and my kids. We raised them in a quiet neighborhood, paid our bills on time, saved every spare dollar. We weren't rich, but we were careful, responsible. We did everything the right way. At least, I thought we did. My daughter, Rachel, is my youngest. She's 36 now, married. 1 son. A good job in medical billing, or at least that's what she told me. For most of her life, Rachel was the reliable one. Straight A's. Never late. Never in trouble. That's why I didn't hesitate the first time she asked to borrow my SUV. Just for the weekend, Mom, she said. My car's making a weird noise. I handed over the keys without a second thought. When she brought it back Sunday night, something felt off. She wouldn't sit down. Kept checking her phone. Jumped every time a car passed the house. When I asked if everything was okay, she snapped at me. I'm fine. Why are you interrogating me? Then she apologized. Said work was stressful. Kissed my cheek and left. The next morning, I found a small clear plastic bag wedged between the center console and the driver's seat. Empty. But it had a smell I recognized immediately. Sharp. Chemical. Wrong. I told myself it could be nothing. I told myself a lot of things. 6 weeks later, Rachel asked to borrow the SUV again. This time, I paid attention. When she returned it, she stayed sitting in the driver's seat for several minutes, talking in hushed tones on her phone, scanning the street like she was waiting for someone, or making sure no one was watching. That night, I went back outside with a flashlight. I checked everywhere. And that's when I found the phone. Not a smartphone. One of those cheap prepaid ones. Disposable. The kind people don't put their real names on. I turned it on. The messages weren't emotional. They were efficient. Addresses. Times. Short confirmations. One message made my stomach drop. Your MOMS SUV is perfect. Nobody suspects her. I sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel, realizing the truth all at once. My daughter wasn't borrowing my car. She was using it. And I was the cover. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because once you see something like that, you don't get to unsee it. and I knew whatever I did next had to be done carefully, very carefully. And then, 3 mornings ago, I found the envelope under the dashboard. And that's when I decided I was done waiting. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that message on the burner phone replaying itself over and over. Nobody suspects her. Not my name. Not my face. Just my usefulness. By morning, I knew one thing for certain: Rachel wasn't done. And if she wasn't done, then neither was I. The next day, I called her like everything was normal. "Hey," I said casually. "Can you stop by this weekend? I made too much soup and froze half of it. You know how I am." There was a pause on the line. Too long. "Yeah. Sure, Mom," she said. "Everything okay?" "Perfectly fine," I replied. "Just miss you." She came Saturday afternoon. Alone. Said her husband had taken their son to a birthday party across town. We sat at the kitchen table, the same one where I used to help her with spelling homework, the same one where her father used to read the paper every morning. I slid the burner phone across the table. Her face drained of color. "What is this?" she asked, even though she already knew. "You tell me." Her hand hovered over the phone, then pulled back. Her eyes darted to the window, the door, anywhere but me. "Mom, it's not what you think." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't interrupt. I just waited. She told me a story. Or parts of one. She said she'd made a bad investment, said someone offered her a way out, said it was temporary, said it was almost over. Every sentence contradicted the last. "How much?" I asked. 15,000. 5 seconds later it was 20. Then she said she didn't really know. That's when I realized something that broke my heart more than the drugs ever could. She wasn't just lying to me. She was lying to herself. "You used my vehicle," I said quietly. "My name is on that registration. If you'd been stopped, if something went wrong, I would have been arrested." Me. Her eyes filled with tears. "I never meant to hurt you," she said. "I just needed time." "And your son?" I asked. "What happens to him when this temporary thing explodes?" "That did it." She cried then. Real crying. The kind that shakes your shoulders and steals your breath. For a moment, all I saw was my little girl again, the one who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Every part of me wanted to hold her. But another part of me, the part that had read those messages, the part that knew the danger, stood firm. "You stop," I said. "Now. You walk away." She shook her head. "I can't. They won't let me." "Then we go to the police," I said. "Together." Her tears dried instantly. "No," she said flatly. "I'm not going to prison." "If you keep doing this," I replied, "prison is the best outcome." She stood up so fast her chair scraped across the floor. "I need to leave, Rachel," but she was already heading for the door. I watched her drive away, my heart pounding, knowing something terrible and unavoidable had just settled into place. She wasn't going to stop. She was going to keep using my SUV. Keep hiding things under my dashboard. Keep gambling with my freedom and her child's future. That night, I sat alone in the dark living room and made the hardest decision of my life. If my daughter wouldn't protect herself, then I would have to protect her in a way she would hate me for. And the next time she asked to borrow my car, I said yes. Rachel showed up Thursday morning, just after 7. She looked calmer than she had in weeks. That alone told me everything. People who are in danger don't relax, they adjust. "I just need the SUV for a few hours," she said, forcing a smile. "Picking up some supplies." I handed her the keys. "Drive safe," I said. She hugged me quickly and left, tires crunching against the gravel as she pulled away. The moment she turned the corner, I grabbed my purse and my husband's old compact car. My hands were shaking so badly I had to sit for a full minute before turning the key. Then I followed her. She didn't go anywhere near store. She drove straight to a strip mall on the edge of town and parked behind a closed dry cleaner. She waited. 10 minutes. 15. Then a dark SUV pulled in beside her. A man got out. Didn't look rushed. Didn't look nervous. He leaned into my SUV like this was routine. They talked for less than 3 minutes. He walked away carrying a gym bag. My stomach twisted. Rachel drove off. I stayed back, counting to 10 before pulling out so she wouldn't notice me. She made 2 more stops that morning. Same pattern. Short conversations. Bags exchanged. No receipts. No shopping carts. No mistakes. By noon, she brought my SUV back like nothing happened. Thanks, Mom, she said lightly. You are a lifesaver. I smiled. That night, I spread the photos across my kitchen table. Locations. Faces. License plates. A map of my daughter's double life. I didn't sleep. I thought about my grandson. About his small hands wrapped around mine when we crossed the street. About how he trusted the adults in his life to keep him safe. By morning, I knew what I had to do. 3 weeks passed. Rachel called again. Hate to ask, she said, but can I borrow the SUV tomorrow afternoon? Of course, I replied. Keys will be where they always are. After she left, I drove straight to the county police office. My legs felt like they might give out as I walked inside. I need to speak to someone, I told the officer at the desk. I believe my vehicle is being used to transport illegal substances. They didn't brush me off. A detective, early 40s, calm voice, steady eyes, listened while I told her everything. The photos. The phone. The pattern. She's using your SUV today, the detective asked. Yes. We'll move quickly, she said. But we need confirmation there's something in the vehicle. I hesitated. There is, I said. I found an envelope taped under the dashboard this morning. I didn't tell her everything. I didn't tell her that before coming in, I'd removed that envelope and placed it inside Rachel's car, right where anyone would find it during a routine stop. Because if this was going to end, it needed to end now. Not later. Not after something went wrong. Not after my grandson paid the price. 27 minutes after I got home, my phone rang. And I already knew why. My phone was vibrating in my hand before I even looked at the screen. It was Rachel's husband. I didn't answer. 30 seconds later, it rang again. This time, Rachel. I picked up. Mom, she said, her voice already breaking. They pulled me over. There are police everywhere. They're saying they found something in my car. This has to be a mistake. I closed my eyes. Where is your son? I asked. What? Why does that matter? Mom, you have to tell them. Where is he, Rachel? A pause. He's with my sister. Why? Good, I said. Listen to me carefully. Don't go home. Don't call anyone except a lawyer. And don't lie. Her breathing turned shallow. You knew, she whispered. Didn't you? I tried to help you stop, I said. You wouldn't. They're putting me in handcuffs, she said, panic flooding her voice. Mom, please. The line went dead. I stood in my kitchen staring at the wall, feeling like I'd just pushed my own child off a cliff, and could only hope there was ground at the bottom. She was denied bail. The charges were serious. Trafficking. Possession. Intent to distribute. When I saw her 4 days later, she looked smaller. Older. Like the weight of everything had finally landed. They brought her into the visitation room in a plain jumpsuit, wrists cuffed. She picked up the phone on the other side of the glass, and stared at me like she didn't recognize me. You did this, she said flatly. I moved the envelope, I said. I called the police. Her eyes burned. You set me up. No, I said quietly. You set yourself up. I just stopped pretending it wasn't happening. They told her about the evidence. About the surveillance. About how the envelope wasn't found where they expected. She laughed once. Sharp. broken. You chose this over me. I chose your son, I said. And I chose you having a future at all. She slammed the phone down and turned her back to me, shoulders shaking. The guard had to guide her away. I sat there long after she was gone, wondering if I'd just destroyed the last piece of my family. Over the next weeks, everything fell apart. Her husband filed for separation. My grandson moved in with relatives. The house Rachel once lived in was suddenly empty. Her lawyer advised her to cooperate, and she did. She gave them names. REITs. Suppliers. People who'd promised her safety and would have abandoned her the moment things went wrong. The sentence came down months later. 8 years. Eligible for parole in 3. When the judge read it out, Rachel looked at me once. I couldn't read her expression. Anger. Relief. Betrayal. Maybe all of it. Outside the courtroom, the detective found me. What you did saved her life, she said. The people she was working with don't let people walk away. Will she ever forgive me? I asked. The detective didn't answer right away. Maybe, she said. Not today. But maybe. Now I see my grandson every weekend. We bake. We watch cartoons. He asks about his mom. I tell him the truth, in pieces he can handle. That she made mistakes. That she's learning how to fix them. That she loves him more than anything. Some nights, I lie awake wondering if I crossed a line I can never step back from. But then I remember the alternative. And I know why I made the choice I did. The first 6 months after the sentencing were the hardest. Rachel refused to speak to me. She declined my visits. Hung up when I tried to call, returned every letter unopened. According to her lawyer, she was angry, but focused. Enrolled in every program available. Therapy. Substance counseling. Job training. I told myself that was something. Her son came to live with me not long after. At first, he slept with the light on. He'd wake up in the middle of the night crying for his mom, confused about why she couldn't come home yet. I learned how to explain the truth without breaking him. Learned how to be calm even when my chest felt like it was caving in. Your mom is somewhere safe, I'd tell him. She's working very hard to come back better. Time moved strangely after that. Slow and fast at the same time. A year passed. Then, 2:1 Wednesday evening, the phone rang at exactly 7:12 p.m. I almost didn't answer. Mom, Rachel said on the other end. Her voice sounded different. Quieter, steadier. We didn't talk about the past. Not at first. She told me about the library job she'd taken inside. About a class she was helping teach. About learning, for the first time, how to sit with consequences instead of running from them. I was angry at you, she admitted. I still am, sometimes, but I understand why you did it. I pressed my hand against the kitchen counter, steadying myself. I don't forgive you yet, she added. But I don't hate you anymore. That was enough. 3 years in, Rachel became eligible for parole. The night before the hearing, I sat alone at the same kitchen table and wondered if I'd have the courage to speak for her. After everything. In the end, I did. I told the board about the work she'd done. The accountability she'd taken. The mother she was trying to become. 6 weeks later, she came home. Not to the same life, not to the same neighborhood, but to a second chance. She hugged her son, like she'd never let go again. We're rebuilding now. Slowly. Carefully. Some scars don't disappear. They just fade. People still ask me if I regret what I did. The truth is, I don't know. What I do know is this: love isn't always gentle. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like intervention. Sometimes it looks like being willing to be hated so someone else can survive. If I had done nothing, my daughter might not be alive today. And my grandson would have grown up without his mother. So if choosing consequences over comfort makes me the villain in her story, I can live with that. Because she's here. And that's enough.